Hello and welcome back everyone to Master Game Design, Unreal Engine 5 Stylized Environments and third-person blueprint course. In the last lesson we left ourselves off with a simple type of a building, we adjusted it, and we got ourselves a nice structure for the harbor. So right now we still have a couple of things for the harbor, and the main thing is going to be the boats themselves. For us to create the boats, we already have like some of the boats from the pack, but it's not going to look quite as nice, especially when we hit play. They're just going to be static. It's not going to look quite as nice in the harbor itself if we just leave them as is. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go ahead and make them into physical objects. We're going to make use out of the buoyancy, and we're going to just actually make use out of the engine folder itself. Within the left hand side, we can see that we are within a content folder. I'm just going to go ahead and make this smaller, and we should see ourselves engine folder. If you're not seeing the engine folder, this one over here, you should go to settings, go on to show engine content and show plugin content, have both of them enabled. Just make sure not to ever change anything from within them itself. Otherwise, it's just going to transfer to other projects whenever you want to use them in other basically projects itself. So we're going to go on to the engine folder, which I'm going to just simply search within it the buoyancy. So buoyancy, there you go. And we got ourselves buoyancy example. As a quick test, we can just simply drag this into the scene, just put it above the water like so, and we can see what it does. We can hit play and it should just float around with the water quite nicely like so. So we're just going to basically make use out of that. We're going to go ahead and copy this to our content folder. We're just going to actually put it within one of the landscapes folder. So over here, actually I will create a new folder. We can just right click on the landscape folder. We can create new folder like that as well. I can call this physical ships or something like that. So ships, I'm just going to call it like so. And yeah, we're just going to go back onto the engine real quick. Going to then make a copy out of this, going to drag it and drop it like so, and copy here like that. And now within the ships folder, we're going to get ourselves points example. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And if now we were to open it up, we're going to find ourselves with a blueprint. The blueprint itself is quite an interesting topic all in itself. I am actually going to run a blueprint introduction video. It's going to be mainly focused on static meshes and whatnot, but it will cover the whole layout of this section. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Hello and welcome everyone to the basics video for blueprints, in which I'm going to explain you everything there is a need to know about blueprint system within Unreal Engine 5. So to start off, what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to right click on our content browser, and I'm going to select blueprint class, which by default is going to give us a bunch of options. In order to get ourselves a fresh and empty type of a blueprint, I'm going to make sure I click on an actor, and this will give me an empty actor that we're able to make use out of it. We can also change up the name, but I'm just going to click off of it to get ourselves a new blueprint. And essentially, if we were to double click on it to open it up, what this will do is it'll give us an editor for the blueprint itself. And yeah, what blueprint is, it's a combination of a code, asset, and everything you want to have within a single bundle. It's a sort of a prefab for Unreal Engine. So if we were to change this within the editor, it's going to be changed within Unreal Engine itself. Currently, I'm just going to close this down real quick, and I'm just going to bring this onto our game engine, the viewport. I'm just going to drag this out like so, and we can see that it's completely empty, and we can click G to see the icon itself. And I'll go even further and just make a duplicate out of it so we can see how it behaves when we're adding a couple of items within it. I'm going to click Ctrl D to make a duplicate, put it to the side, and now we have two separate icons that don't have anything. If we click G to go into our game view and hide all of our icons, we can see that there's nothing there. So with that being said, I'm going to go back onto the blueprint. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to see what's up with that. We're going to be greeted with this window, which is essentially because we don't have anything within this blueprint. And to open a full blueprint editor, we're just going to click on this text over here. So by clicking on it, we're going to be able to open ourselves up with a proper full blueprint editor. I'm going to maximize this. And now the main things that we need to know is essentially there are 3 viewports within a blueprint. There is something called viewport, which will show us a 3D space of the blueprint itself. There's also a construction script, which will allow us to add options and settings onto our blueprint, which would work not only when the editor is being played or simulated, it will constantly be working. And finally, we have event graph, which will allow us to do coding for the blueprint. We have a couple of options that allows us to essentially start the code whenever it's being played, whenever the Unreal Engine gets hit play. It also has an option to overlap, and finally it has an option to run the code on every single tick or frame of the engine. But for now though, we're going to go back onto the viewport and we're going to talk a little bit more of the other options as well. We have components tab, which will show us everything in a similar manner to an outliner within our game engine. We also have graphs options, macros, variables. So this is everything for coding essentially. Then on the right hand side, we have options, details tab, which essentially will work in the same way as for materials or for just objects within our Unreal Engine. It'll show us details based on the selection that we have. So for example, if I add a component, which we can do so by clicking add button over here, can search for box like so. We have a couple of options to pick from, and one of the options we can choose is going to be cube. If we were to select cube like so, we're going to essentially create ourselves a cube. The options for the viewport are pretty similar to the ones that we have within the game engine itself, and by holding right mouse button, clicking and holding right mouse button, we're able to move our camera around. Clicking WASD will allow us to move our camera around like so. We can also use our scroll wheel to move it out and in and out like so. And by clicking and holding middle mouse button, we can simply pan our camera around like so. Alternatively, left mouse button is giving us this sort of an option. We can click F to recenter onto the center of the selection. So yeah, going back to the details tab, we have cube selected and we can see the details tab for the cube are in here, and it's going to give us all the necessary information and control over the viewport that we have over here. So now, for example, if I were to close this down, we can see that we have cubes in our level, and these cubes are basically blueprints. So what this will mean is if we were to select this and we can click edit in blueprint within the details tab, we can change the options from within here. And if we were to lower this down a little bit, or to select this object, we can, for example, click R to go on to our scale mode, and we can now simply drag this out again. We can see that both of these objects are being scaled upwards like so. So yeah, anything that makes use out of this blueprint will be changed like so. And yeah, that's essentially it for the basics of blueprints. I hope that the information was informative, and now let's get back to the video. Hello and welcome back everyone. I hope that the video was informative. Now we're going to make use out of the buoyancy example, and we're going to be setting ourselves up with some ships for the water. So yeah, we're going to continue on with this in the next lesson. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in a bit.